Yeah, the Canadian life first. Everyone, hope you were doing well. And like I talked about in my previous video, I was gonna do a podcast with well, he's not like an actual. I don't think you're an actual Bitcoin Cash developer. Like, do you actually do any work on the GitHub, like of the actual Bitcoin Cash clients?
There's an alternative implementation of Bitcoin Cash that my company develops and maintains called Bcash.
Okay.
But right. I'm not really involved with Bitcoin ABC or BCHD, which are like the main implementations of Bitcoin Cash, I would say.
Right. So you're more in charge of like maintaining one of the clients for your for the company you work for.
Yep. Me and the rest of my team.
Right. Cool. Okay. So you want to tell the audience a little about yourself and like how you got into crypto and what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mark, and I work for this company called Purse.io. And just a disclaimer, everything that I'm saying is my opinion, and it may not even be my real opinion because I like to LARP sometimes. And,
I just want to say, you guys, Purse is pretty cool. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. I've used Purse for years, and it's awesome. I've never had an issue with them. And people don't realize, people think when I describe Purse to people, like they think I'm making it up. Like they think it's not possible. Like they're like, what? You can just buy stuff for cheaper on Amazon, like 20% cheaper using Bitcoin. And then they just like hear the word Bitcoin. They think I'm like doing something illegal by buying stuff on Amazon for cheap. And I'm like, no, like.
Yeah, it really works. And it'd be awesome if, more people got interested in using Purse, because Purse actually spends a lot of money developing open source projects.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So it's really good for the whole like crypto economy as a whole. Like the more business that Purse does, the more open source development and projects that we'll be able to like continue to do over time.
You want to tell people what Purse does?
Oh yeah, sure. So Purse is like it's an online marketplace where you can buy things on Amazon using Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that it kind of Purse facilitates an exchange between Bitcoin and Amazon credit, Amazon gift cards, basically. So people, you generally can save around 15% on average, sometimes even up to 30%, just because people are willing to basically overpay for the current price of Bitcoin because they're able to buy it with the Amazon gift card. So, right. And that's pretty much like the secret sauce underneath the whole thing. Because it doesn't really make sense if you just like think about it intuitively, like.
Right.
So, that's all it really is under the hood.
Right. So how it works is people have Amazon store credits that they earned or they got as gifts or whatever, and they want to sell it for Bitcoin.
Yep.
And they're willing to buy Bitcoin at more expensive than like 15% or 20% above spot, basically. Yep. And then Purse is acting as an exchange between you and that person with the Amazon store credits.
Yep. Yeah, Purse acts as like a marketplace, like maker, basically.
Right. And like I said to you guys, you should go check it out, like, and use it. Just try it for yourself. It works, and I've used it multiple times.
Yeah.
The only issue I've had with Purse is like people want their money like from escrow, like as soon as the notification, that it got shipped to me. Like I might not be home or something, and I'll get like the guy. The son was there even might be like foreign or something. They're just like, why haven't you released the Bitcoin yet? I'm like, dude, I got it like 10 minutes ago. Relax. Like I'm not home. I'll be home in a minute. Like,
yeah. It's hard because we actually have to employ a bunch of people to just kind of manage all of the people stuff and ask questions and kind of educate more about Bitcoin and how it all works.
Right. Okay. So yeah, you work for Purse. So how did you get into crypto initially?
Oh, good question. So in a past life, like I was gonna do like the whole grad school thing.
Mhm.
And I decided that wasn't for me, and I kind of just quit, and I moved to San Francisco and learned how to code, got a job, and as soon as I got a job, it was like it was like the first time in my life where I actually had like nice income, and I like had like extra money that I could spend. And
Right.
I was like trying to figure out what to do with it. I'm like, all right, I can invest. I gotta pay off loans, like blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right.
And this crazy guy that I met in San Francisco, he was like he's a really crazy dude. He started,
Well, he does live in San Francisco.
yeah, totally. Um, he started talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum on social media,
Right.
and I'd heard of Bitcoin. I like made a Coinbase account.
Mhm.
I tried mining Bitcoin like way back in the day, but I didn't get any like feedback on my computer as to like what was happening. So I was just like confused, and I kind of
Right.
forgot about it.
Yeah.
So after this crazy guy is like talking about how there's like all this stuff is like aligning, and Ethereum's gonna like go up a lot and Bitcoin's gonna go up a lot, I bought a little bit, and then I started reading, and just kind of got sold on the Ethereum World Computer Vision, and I was like, wow, this is gonna change the world. So
Right.
kind of became that guy that couldn't stop talking about it, and everybody else at my old job got annoyed that I wouldn't stop talking about it. And then eventually made the switch into the space full time.
Yeah, I was super deep into Ethereum for a while too. When I first actually, I was initially making crypto. I made a few crypto videos on my health channel. So you can go back like 3 years ago. I made a YouTube video on my health channel called the incredible use cases of Ethereum.
Mm.
And it's like a whiteboard video, because a lot of my videos are whiteboard videos just because I like doing the whiteboard stuff for whatever reason.
For sure.
And I go over like all the use cases of Ethereum, like the smart contracts, like blockchain assets, even like legal documents, and I go over it all and like how, and yeah, I was really into Ethereum for a while. I had like a vivid dream too about Ethereum, where like everything was like a futuristic kind of sci-fi world, and everything was like interconnected through like Ethereum. Also, I really liked. Well, I really like Vitalik. He's a good Vitalik. So with me, like, sounds kind of strange, but like I kind of talk about the stuff more on like my health channel too, but I actually follow stuff like intuitively a lot. And like with people, like intuitively I could tell Vitalik, his heart is in the right place. You know what I mean? It's like when Vitalik talks about crypto, his face lights up. It's like when Elon Musk goes on podcasts and Elon Musk starts talking about like building rockets and stuff. You can see it. It's like in his soul. Like he like gets like, it's like what he's here for. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really I was in Ethereum for a while too. I actually don't own any Ethereum right now. I own Ethereum tokens, but I'm a huge fan of Ethereum. Ethereum changed everything.
Yeah,
it just changed the game. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely not financial advice, but 32 ETH is the number of ETH to hodl, especially because that's going to be like the minimum amount of ETH to be a proof of stake validator,
Right.
for 2.0.
Right.
But that probably won't come out for a while. I've been trying to keep up with all of the ETH 2.0 stuff, but it's impossible to. There's too many different projects. But I kind of have a good high level understanding of like what they're trying to do.
Right.
But yeah, and then one other thought that just came to mind. So there's this really interesting project called what is it? Edgeware, something like that. And they're doing this new thing. Instead of an airdrop, they're calling it a lock drop. And the idea is you lock up some ETH in their contract, and they will then print in the Edge Genesis block. So Edge is going to be a child chain of this new project called Polkadot.
Uh-huh.
And so basically, if you lock up your ETH, then you'll get some Edge tokens at the very beginning of like the Edge blockchain. So that's another good potential reason to like hodl some ETH, because you can
Right.
just, have an airdrop of this new Edge token that might be interesting.
Right. Yeah. Do you think Ethereum will be able to fulfill their vision? Do you think they're gonna? Because I know, like, with the community, like, one thing that I noticed what's happening with Ethereum is kind of the same thing that happened to Bitcoin, right? There's so much economic mass behind Ethereum now. It gets harder and harder to make change. It's like Bitcoin. There's so much economic mass behind Bitcoin now. They're almost trying to lock in the protocol with Bitcoin, I feel like, just because like they don't want to fuck it up. You know what I mean? Because if Bitcoin goes down, like, that'll ruin the market for like a decade.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Better to be safe.
Yeah. Which I actually don't really mind with Bitcoin Core. I don't really mind them taking this safe, because like other projects can innovate. If Bitcoin wants to be a digital gold, there's a use case there, and it'll probably continue to be that. And other projects like Ethereum or Bitcoin Cash or whatever, they can kind of be, they can kind of push innovation more.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't mind them taking a safer approach in a lot of ways. Although I do wish, at the same time, they would push forward more. So yeah, with Ethereum, do you think they'll be able to fulfill the Eth2.0 vision?
Ethereum is really the most intellectually honest project out there, in my opinion.
Right.
Like what you were saying, Vitalik's not going to sell you something that he doesn't think is possible, in my opinion.
Right.
Even though he's making really big claims, he's put in a lot of work. And I think that a lot of Ethereum 2.0, the success or the failure, I think a lot of it will come down to this new hardware that the Ethereum Foundation is actually researching.
So actual hardware, like computer hardware?
Yeah. So to do proof of stake is so much more complicated than proof of work. There's like so many extra things. So, there's this idea of a verifiable delay function.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what this is it's a computation that can only be so fast. Like if you do that computation, it takes 10 minutes and it's impossible to compute it faster.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they're trying to come up with ASICs to do these like VDFs to basically help them do their proof of stake, like to select who's going to be creating the next block. So at a high level, I think a lot of Ethereum 2.0's success is going to be based on whether or not this ASIC project pans out.
Right. Yeah. Proof of stake intellectually to me is a very interesting thing. I don't know if society would ever choose proof of stake as its currency, which isn't necessary with Ethereum's not really. I don't think Ethereum's really trying to be a currency anyway. It's more like a platform. And so proof of stake's really fascinating to me. I actually don't know if it'll work long term. Do you think that proof of stake as a base sort of economic concept is viable?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say
there's one way to find out, right?
Yeah. The very first problem, in my opinion, the very first problem is that the way that taxes work in the real world.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. I was reading about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, all the income that you make from proof of stake, it should all be taxable income, and then like your cost basis is like, is it 0 or something? I don't know.
Right.
It just like they need to, and it's kind of weird because it's like, at what point do like the old ways kind of stop the potential innovation? And
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I am hopeful on tax laws. I do think that they'll fit here in America over time. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you're talking about the same article that I read, but they were doing the math with the taxes on being like a validator or whatever. And it was interesting because if you do the math, if the IRS kept Ethereum, like if you paid your taxes in Ethereum, like over time, the IRS would actually become the biggest validator.
oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, which is interesting. But people, I doubt people would pay their taxes in Ethereum, and I doubt that the IRS would ever keep the Ethereum and use it to validate. They'd probably just sell it back on the open market.
Yeah, not while the boomers are doing things.
Yeah, but it was interesting math that I was reading, that actually the IRS become the biggest validator over time due to the tax laws.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah, right. You don't want the IRS. That's the biggest validator.
Yeah.
Maybe you could join their pool, the IRS pool.
Oh, geez.
Uh,
That's scary.
yeah, yeah. So one reason, like one of the major reasons why I actually want to talk to you is our mutual interest in Bitcoin Cash.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And the whole scaling debate. And me and Mark were actually talking about, before I started recording, we were talking about how when Bitcoin Cash first forked, I kind of bought the Bitcoin Core Kool-Aid a little bit. Not fully, okay? No, I don't want to say fully. I was never full NPC. But I was like, well, free money. Like, and I didn't think Bitcoin Cash, I didn't really know if it had a future or not. So I was like, well, I'll just take the money and put it back. I don't know what I did with the money. I think I put it into other projects, whatever it was. But recently I've come full circle on Bitcoin Cash because I've really started following them, and after following them for a while, I began to see the developments. You know what I mean? And so Bitcoin Cash has kind of proven it to me lately, like the way that they're pushing innovation in a certain way and the track record. And I think that kind of the sentiment has finally bottomed for Bitcoin Cash. First there was the FUD about it forking in the first place, and it's not the real Bitcoin, and that whole thing about how it's a scam, and like a lot of people think it's like run by Roger Ver. They like think he is Bitcoin Cash, and so they think that like it's like a centralized thing and all this. And then probably the bottom of the Bitcoin Cash sentiment was when Bitcoin SV forked, and a lot of people were tricked, including Roger Ver was tricked by Craig Wright, and so that whole like community kind of forked off. But since then, since like Bitcoin SV is actually almost 1-to-1 with Bitcoin Cash. I've begun to see how Bitcoin Cash has, especially like in the community, has really started to like lift itself. You know what I mean? It kind of set itself apart, and people are starting to understand what it's about. So I was going to ask you, like, what was your initial sort of feelings about the Bitcoin fork and the debate that went on around that and like the community, and how do you feel about Bitcoin Cash right now, just in general?
I would say at that point I was definitely an NPC. I sold all my Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, me too.
It was like, Bcash, what is this? But then I kind of learned more about the space and decided that I'm pro experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool for experiments to happen all over the place because nobody really knows what the right way to do all this stuff is. It's kind of all pioneering. So the more experiments and the faster they fail, the better, in my opinion. So,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, and I think Bitcoin Cash is like a cool project. It gives a place for people that like developing Bitcoin to do like to have big blocks. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with like Bitcoin smart contracts.
Right. Yeah, people don't realize how much you can do, I think, with the more simple Bitcoin contracts.
Yeah, and like I feel like we haven't even really fully experimented with all the possibilities. And Bitcoin Cash is actually they've added a bunch new like abilities to the smart contracts relative to Bitcoin. So
Right.
you could actually on Bitcoin Cash, there's actually a way to make like an oracle. Let's say that like you're a big like football fan or something like American football, and you're watching like like every Sunday the NFL could basically post the scores uh, into the blockchain in a transaction. And in Bitcoin Cash, as long as the NFL like posts their public key someplace and assigns their transaction correctly, then there's this new opcode that lets you basically look at that data that the NFL posted, and based on that data, it could be used in the smart contract. So you can write a smart contract that says like, if the Giants win, then I'll get the money. Otherwise, you'll get the money. And yeah, like nobody has really built any applications with it yet. It's just kind of
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's other kind of little things like that. But yeah, just because there's so many projects, the developers are spread thin. Yeah, there's no apps that use it yet.
Right. But they're definitely building out like the blockchain like more and more. So there's more opportunities to stuff that can be built on it. I've been noticing lately. Yeah, with Bitcoin Cash, I think it's very interesting. This sounds strange, and you don't necessarily have to be a Donald Trump supporter, but I noticed the same thing before Donald Trump was elected in the Donald Trump, specifically the Reddit community. The Donald Trump online community, the way that they were sharing memes and the way that they had become battle hardened, just because the media and everything is obviously is like a left-wing bias. They'd become a very hardened like group of online individuals that had like a purpose to get Donald Trump elected. You know what I mean? And I've been noticing and they always had like the underdog sort of vibe, but they were gonna like persevere, I noticed. And I've noticed it now with the Bitcoin Cash community. They went through like a lot of hardships, but they stuck to like their guts and their vision. And now I'm starting to see like the community like really start to like flower out, I want to say. And a lot of things come together for Bitcoin Cash. And I also feel like I do follow my intuition with a lot of things. And I feel very strongly that Bitcoin Cash is like, it's a pure sort of project. And I think it also represents humility to a lot of Bitcoin maximalists that want to harden the protocol instead of making it more available for Earth to use. Whereas the Bitcoin Cash community wants to make a platform that is just more usable so that everyone on Earth can use basically peer-to-peer cash or peer-to-peer smart contracts. And I have some crazy predictions about Bitcoin Cash. I actually think it will catch up to Bitcoin someday. That's not investment advice, but just because it's more usable. Bitcoin will probably always be a store of value and be digital gold. But Bitcoin Cash, the way that they're designing it, it's like what Bitcoin Cash is doing right now, in my opinion, is they're taking all the best things and they're slapping it into like their protocol to a certain extent. Like they can do like Ethereum kind of tokens now. I noticed on Bitcoin Cash, I was reading about that. So basically, you can do like ERC20 type tokens on Bitcoin Cash, and you can do all these different sorts of things. And I started following their development team, and I think you're a big fan of him too. I really like I don't know how to say his name, Amaury.
Yeah, Amari.
Yeah, I think it's a French name. It's like
Yeah,
Sachet.
yep.
Yeah. He looks French, and it's a French sounding name, and I think he's very pragmatic. I think the Bitcoin Cash community is very pragmatic. They're very just focused on results. It's not about like there's no sort of like there's nothing like really confining their thought processes. It's just super pragmatic. It's like how can we make it the most usable, stable, scalable platform, and like we'll do it. It's super pragmatic. It's not like trying to fit a certain narrative, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Right. And actually, I don't like Roger Ver. I really don't, to be honest. Like, and so it sucks that people they equate Roger Ver with the project. But the thing about Roger Ver, here's the thing. Like, also kind of like watching Roger. In my opinion, Roger Ver, he has ego problems. Okay, he is very, very passive aggressive. He's not very good at like debating the other side at all, in my opinion, without just coming across as a mega dick and like super passive aggressive. And I think he has a large ego, and he does think that he's smarter than most people. Well, in reality, he is smarter than most people. You know what I mean? But he thinks that he's smarter than everyone in the community and things like that. Like, have you ever watched this debate with Charlie Lee? It's so cringe.
No.
Dude, he's just treating Charlie Lee like he's just like the stupidest person on earth. Charlie Lee's not a stupid guy. You know what I mean? It's like, why do you have to be so passive aggressive? But Roger Ver is actually right about a lot of things. Like when he talks about like economic law and how if it's more usable, people will come to it more. And when he talks about a lot of the economic theory around Bitcoin, he's actually right. And so people sometimes aren't able to make that distinction. Just because you're a dick doesn't mean you're wrong. That's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard to kind of, reel in the monkey brain and kind of separate things.
Yeah.
But
Right. And so, yeah, I've become more and more of a fan of Bitcoin Cash. I actually think it'll probably even do better than Litecoin over the next like 4 or 5 years. Just because I see it in the community, and I think that, and we can see it with Bitcoin transactions. Back during this mini bull run, they were already over back to like $1, and that's substantial already. So what's going to happen when we enter the real bull run? They're gonna, and especially if Lightning doesn't scale as fast as they think it will. I'm not super anti-Lightning. I think it has some use cases, and I think it's an important avenue to go out into. But I don't know if it's the end all be all that people is gonna think it is, and it's never gonna be a substitute for as much on-chain capacity as your network can handle.
Yeah, I think Lightning is cool. I think it's really hard. Like it's really complicated. And I would say one of the biggest problems is you need to have money, because like basically you kind of you open up a channel, and it's kind of like being in like an IOU.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other person cheats and you catch them cheating, you need to be ready to take your money back at any instant. So you basically need to be online at all times. Like you can't unplug your computer. It's not like really intuitive. Like if your computer running it breaks, then you're out of luck. Like you went offline. So to even run a Lightning node, you have to like really, you want to have a power supply, like a backup power supply, and hook it into that. And you need to have like redundant hard drives, and you need to like randomly turn on and turn off the computer a few times on testnet to make sure that it works and like comes back online. And
Right.
you need to have like really good security so that no one like can hack in and try to take your machine offline. And it's not easy. Like running a Bitcoin node is like once you figure out how to do it, it's like not that bad.
Right.
A little confusing at first, but running a Lightning node, that's like a whole another ordeal. It's like
Is it really?
It's not really easy at this point. And sure, there's like the Casa nodes, right?
Right.
But yeah, you have a lot of trust that that hardware is not going to fail.
Right.
So you better not put a lot of money on it. And basically, the other problem is that you need to, because you need to, at any moment, you need to be able to, if you catch someone trying to steal your money, you need to claim it back yourself. To claim it back, you need to send a transaction. And if the transaction fees are really, really high, then you're still paying a transaction fee. It's not like, so
Right. Yeah.
So if you have a channel with like $20 in it, and all of a sudden the transaction fee goes from like 50 cents up to $10, you only have $10 that you can reliably use on Lightning.
Right.
And as that transaction fee continues to go up on Bitcoin, the main chain, it cuts away at the amount of money that you have available on Lightning.
Right. Yeah, my current feelings on Lightning is like somewhere in between. Like it's not. I don't think it'll be like the utopia. Like I'm not sure. Like if I want to send my friend some money, like on my phone to his phone, I don't know if we'll ever be using Lightning. But there's definitely some use cases like streaming. Like if you want to stream money, kind of like you pay. Like if you're streaming video, and you just like pay per minute or something like that. Like for Netflix, instead of like paying a monthly thing, you could like through the Lightning, you could like stream Bitcoin to Netflix's. Also with like maybe trusted third parties, like I could see a situation where like Walmart and Amazon run nodes, and then you have like you connect to them. So if you're doing a lot of payments with Amazon or something like that, where it's not like so peer to peer, but if you have like a trusted person that you purchase from frequently, and you want to save on fees, you can like open a Lightning channel with them, so because you're just going to be buying stuff a lot. And I think it's definitely a very interesting project. I think like the truth is somewhere in between. You know what I mean? I think as it usually is.
Yeah.
I think it'll be like some like scaling utopia, but I think it has some use cases, and it'll probably be part of the ecosystem, especially atomic swaps for like decentralized exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And atomic swaps are really interesting because if Lightning works out to a certain extent, it's using an atomic swap. People don't realize it'll be cheaper to pay someone if they want Bitcoin, you could do an atomic swap with Litecoin, and you're basically using the Litecoin network, but they're getting Bitcoin on the other end through the swap.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that works out, basically these other blockchains become like side chains for Bitcoin, and they become cheaper ways to send Bitcoin. Like same is true, like any SegWit coin, like Litecoin, if we Digibyte's faster and cheaper than Litecoin. So you have atomic swaps. Why not even send someone Bitcoin using a Digibyte atomic swap? But again, like rolling that all into like a decentralized structure or app on your cell phone that's like doesn't fail, that's another couple years away, probably.
Totally. It's hard.
Yeah.
Atomic swaps are really hard.
Are they really?
Yeah, I think there needs to just be kind of like a standardization around them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like an ERC-20, like how they did, like the standardization.
Yeah, and if there was maybe like a standard liquidity pool
that they all share, yeah,
that they all share, and then like you can kind of go and like look for orders and stuff. And but I would say one problem with atomic swaps. It's kind of called like the free option problem, where basically if you're trying to do an atomic swap with somebody, I can send my transaction to you, and you can't claim the transaction until you send a transaction to me.
Right.
But then the problem is that if you let's say like the price goes the wrong way for you, then you can choose to just never send the transaction. There's no way to guarantee that you will send that transaction.
Does that mean that it'd be locked, the escrow, until you send the transaction? So it's just a way to make the funds locked forever.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way that it works is I send a transaction to you that says, prove to me that you sent the transaction to me. Otherwise, I can reclaim this transaction after a couple of days.
Right. Okay, and they're having trouble solving that.
Yeah, it's just kind of impossible because if I send the transaction to you already, then you can't claim it. You can't claim that transaction until you decide to send your transaction to me. But you could decide to never send that transaction. You can just be like, oh, the price has changed. Like, or you could take your time and like wait for it to become a better deal. And then you could send your transaction.
You can't make it like a time locked thing with like a time window.
Yeah, like it does get time locked because I would end up getting my transaction back. But
so the funds aren't in danger of just staying in escrow forever.
Yeah, okay. The problem is that they're just locked up. Like it's kind of like what is it? I no longer have like access to my funds for some amount of time.
Right.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
So you take on risk that the counterparty won't want to cooperate.
Right. It seems like you could solve that by just making it a smaller time lock window, right? Like you can make it like a 15-minute window.
But then you still pay a couple of transaction fees.
Oh, right, because you have to settle on the network.
Yeah, because you'll pay the first transaction fee.
And the second one to send it back to yourself?
Yeah, and the second one to claim it back.
Right. And someone could spam the network, basically just accepting a bunch of orders and then never sending the transaction so that people end up having to. Right. Interesting.
Yeah. It wouldn't necessarily. I don't think people would like spam it on purpose.
Right.
Because like they don't want to pay those transaction fees, but you just really need to trust your counterparty that they're going to follow through. Right.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see if it gets solved into a easy to use manner, because that'd be incredible if you could just swap like Litecoin to Bitcoin or Digibyte or something, any SegWit coin, and pay for Bitcoin with your cheaper transaction fee. Basically, that'd be incredible.
Totally. Yeah. If you want to know, there's one of the live atomic swap projects that actually work. They do atomic swaps between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they're called Summa. You can find their website at summa.one, and it's really cool tech. They were doing auctions they were selling Ethereum for Bitcoin, and you basically download their app. And when they did their auctions, they found that the Ethereum sold at 5% cheaper than like spot on like Coinbase. So there's a slightly cheaper way to get Ethereum just because you're doing an atomic swap through their app.
Right, and they were buying it with Bitcoin?
Yeah, if you send Bitcoin
you get Ethereum.
Then you get Ethereum.
And it's 5% cheaper. Interesting. I wonder why that is. Maybe because you had to. I could see that if it was like fiat, because you're avoiding KYC. It's interesting that the market would price it that way.
Yeah, I think it's just because it was like not really well known.
Right. It was just illiquidity issues. That would make sense. Right. Yeah, atomic swaps are exciting, especially for like hopefully we get some like next generation decentralized exchanges rolling out that are really. I still use like Ether Delta, actually, or Fork Delta now is what I use. Dude, lately Fork Delta's been working great for me. Like it's been running super smoothly. I bought some Veritasium the other day,
Oh, nice.
and I don't know, and I've never had a problem with Ether Delta or Fork Delta. I mean, if you know how to use it, your funds are safe. You know, it's an open. The smart contracts there, you know, and it's pretty. It hasn't got hacked yet.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool project.
Yeah, and you can always like deposit funds and take them out again. Like with MetaMask, like I just I do the exchange on Ether Delta, then I withdraw it right back to MetaMask, and you're only exposed for like, especially if you can always break your trades into smaller chunks too. Like if I'm buying like 100 grand worth of something on Ether Delta, which you probably would never do, right? Because it's Ether Delta. But I would probably break it into like, at least like 25 grand chunks. And that way, like the worst case scenario, Ether Delta got hacked, like while you're doing your one exchange, at least you're only out a fourth of what you were doing or something like that. You know what I mean? There's a way to mitigate risk, especially like with, just withdrawing it back to MetaMask real quick.
Definitely. Yeah, long term, I'm a little worried about Fork Delta or Ether Delta just because right now the economics in Ethereum are a little, they're a little like it's relatively cheap to store data in the blockchain.
Uh-huh.
It's relatively expensive to do computations, and basically what that means is that a lot of dApps, they store a lot more data than what they need to, causing the Ethereum blockchain to like grow at a really fast rate.
Right.
And Fork Delta or Ether Delta, they're one of the like largest contracts on the blockchain.
I can imagine. I mean, it's like for me, it's like the main use case of Ethereum.
Yeah, so there's this one Ethereum dev who is working on this project. They're calling it state rent, basically where if you hold data on the Ethereum blockchain, then you need to pay rent over time. And they're trying to move to that model just because it's unsustainable. Because right now, the way that it works is you pay to store data at the time that you store it, and then it exists there forever until you decide to delete it. And then when you delete it, you get some money back.
Interesting. So they want to move to a way to charge rent and then hopefully like make rent like the fee structure automated. So like what I mean is like rent will get more expensive if it's hard if the blockchain becomes more congested, like have a feedback equilibrium.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure. It's all in the early stages, and they're working on different specs for it. So it's definitely not final, but there's a general agreement that within a couple of years, if they don't come out with state rent, then it'll be really, really difficult to run an Ethereum node.
Right. So right now there's no real I'm not super technical guy, so I'm just wondering what is the current mechanism to determine how expensive it is to store stuff on Ethereum? Do they have like a cap of how much, like how big the block history can be? Because I know if blocks get too big, the uncle rate gets too big, and that's their main feedback equilibrium.
Yeah. So there's a certain amount of I believe it's a certain amount of, I'm not sure if it's denominated in whey or gas, but I think it's whey. And whoever was like one of the early devs for Ethereum, they just came up with an arbitrary number, like based on running the code on their laptop.
Which is, yeah, and as we know, like with any blockchain, like an arbitrary number is always, it's like the same as like the 1 megabyte like Bitcoin cap size. It's like it's just a random number they picked out, which is always difficult, you know.
Yeah. So after seeing it in practice for a while, they kind of determined that it was too cheap, and that they need to make it more expensive.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, hopefully they can figure out a way to like where they don't have to change it. Like it just becomes like similar to like the uncle rate, where it just has a feedback from the network. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people make the argument that like miners should be able to decide or something like that. Like miners should be able to decide how expensive it is and how cheap it is, and or maybe like some sort of like voting system, or based on like how fast data is being saved, maybe it'll become more expensive. But that all that stuff adds like extra complexity.
Right.
So there's always a trade-off between how complicated the thing is versus like how much actual value you get back from it.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, like the block size debate, how they always debate like, I actually think that most like, it's hard to know if it's true or not, but I actually feel like the most likely scenario is, I actually don't think Bitcoin needs a cap limit on the block size. I kind of think that miners would act out of self-interest, and I don't think that miners would create blocks so big to destroy like the network that's making them money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like I don't know for sure, but that's actually how I think that's how it would play out if there was no cap size on Bitcoin.
If the miners were smart, like so, some Bitcoin Cash people actually ran a test net, and it was like called the I forget what they called it, like the Gigablock testnet or something, to like determine, what's the safest size block that we could handle.
Right.
And they basically just like spun up a bunch of nodes and then spammed them with transactions and made huge blocks and sent them around the network, and then just measured this big experiment.
Right.
And it turned out that I think it was like, is it 128 megabytes? I can't remember, but I think it was 128 megabytes was like the size that they determined was if every block was 128 megabytes with the exact current full nodes, then that would start to cause problems.
Does Bitcoin Cash have a hard cap on the size of the blocks right now?
I'm not sure. I think it does, but
I think it does too. I think it might be 32.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Megabytes.
But the ABC stands for adjustable block cap or something like that. So they want to have like a flexible block size that'll change depending on how many transactions are coming through.
Yeah, I think that's ideal if eventually they can get to a flex cap where it's like, I don't know how you would exactly do it, like maybe the number of transactions. But I don't think you could do that because you could spam the network for super cheap until enforce big blocks upon the network. But I don't know. I'm not an expert. But I do think that if they didn't have, I lean towards if they didn't have a cap size, that the network, that the miners would act out of self-interest. But it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, for sure. And like you could always have someone like Craig Wright, who happened to make a bunch of money doing something and kind of does all the wrong things and screws everything up.
Yeah, for those of you who are still wondering or on the fence, Craig Wright is a scam artist. He's not like he's sued people. He blatantly publishes misinformation on purpose to try to trick people. He posts questionable things on Twitter with underage girls. Him and the other billionaire, was his name Calvin Ayre or whatever. I mean, it's I don't know how you could look at their Twitter feed and like one thing with the underage girls, they must have a lot of money because I don't know why you would post the things that they post on Twitter, like make that public. It's very strange.
Yeah, pretty creepy.
What's that?
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, not even that. I don't understand. You have to be pretty stupid to be. Well, I think a lot of the places were like from Cuba, so actually the age of consent is like way lower. It's like 14, I think, in Cuba, which is another debate about whether the age of consent should be 14. So I think he was like hanging out with like 14-year-old girls, basically, which is, in my opinion, that's still weird, even though it's legal. And I think that might be why they were posting about it on like Twitter, because actually it was the age of consent. But still, dude, you're an old dude hanging out with 14. Like, that's just so weird.
Yeah, and yeah, like I think it was like the Internet Archive posted recently, like on Twitter, something about how this is definitely like not. He's definitely not Satoshi, because they had like they captured an old blog post like before he edited it and then after he edited it.
Yeah, there's proof upon proof if you go looking that he's not Satoshi and he's a scam artist. Like,
Yeah. So hopefully he like runs out of money eventually, because I think he will.
yeah.
Then we can just move on without him.
Craig Wright and like Bitcoin SV is like an example of like an NPC meme gone like too far. Because all the Craig Wright artists are the Craig Wright, I should say, fanboys, and all the Bitcoin SV fanboys. They post that NPC meme about like Australian man bad. It's like, no, you can't just like post that meme about anyone and all of a sudden you think it's like the truth and it's like all a conspiracy. Like like he actually is a scam artist. Like you can't just post that meme and all of a sudden think that like he's actually Satoshi and everyone's wrong.
Yeah, totally. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There is some weird kind of innovation happening in Bitcoin SV though that I don't really understand.
Oh really? Like what? Like just like with their big block research or what?
Yeah, so there's this guy named Unwriter, and he's anonymous. Nobody knows who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps on putting out these projects. Like Bitcom is like his big thing right now, and it's basically a Bitcoin computer, and it's like a whole computer system built into op returns. So,
oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what an op return is like when you send like arbitrary information into Bitcoin. You don't necessarily need to only send transactions. You can also send arbitrary information, and then like from that arbitrary information, other apps can kind of read it in and then process it and kind of know what to do. So yeah, I think you can go to like what is it, bterm.network or something like that. It'll like show you this giant kind of display of the Bitcom computer.
That kind of sounds like that other project you showed me, like the new internet thing with like the where you can buy planets. What was that called?
Urbit.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Urbit, like building a self-containing sort of computer that's like distinct into it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand her, but to be honest, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, it's kind of similar vibes, but like very different projects.
Yeah. Urbit is very interesting. I don't really understand it, but it seems like there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, it's either like one of the coolest innovations that I've ever seen, or a giant Ponzi. I don't think it's a Ponzi, but the way that the system is initially set up is kind of it is very much shaped like a pyramid, but if you think about it from kind of like the technical side, like that shape makes sense in my opinion.
Right.
So there's a lot of FUD.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that they said about Urbit makes sense to me from a layman's perspective. Although, like I said, I went. It's hard for me to understand. I kind of gave up on Urbit a little bit.
Yeah,
like when you told me to buy something, I was trying to look at like how to buy one of the things, and I was just like, I don't understand what you guys are talking about.
You have to go on this. There's this website called OpenSea,
Right?
And it's a platform for trading non-fungibles on Ethereum.
Yeah. Right.
And your Urbit identity is a ERC non-fungible token. And
is that the 721 or whatever, like ERC 700 something?
721. When I was halfway done saying, I realized it's a little bit different than the ERC 721, but
right.
It's like very similar.
I wonder why they picked that random number. Like, shouldn't you just be like ERC 2?
There's a bunch of other ERCs in between that are listed on some website someplace.
Oh, there are. So there are that many ERC sort of. Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if every single number is taken, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the only two I know of are non-fungible tokens, which is like the 700 one, and then the ERC20, which are just like, I don't know what they're like, utility tokens, I guess.
Yeah, like token, simple token or something.
Right. So let's see. What's your big? You don't have to tell us if you don't want to for like privacy, but like, what are you holding right now? What's your biggest holds?
Oh, I'm pretty simple. I just hodl Bitcoin, and
that's a safe bet, right? It's like it's gonna continue to be the store of value and Big Daddy. So like,
but what I would if I was more open to risk, I would definitely be accumulating BNB.
Yeah.
I think that BNB is gonna go up in value a lot more.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
You think you agree with Moonbot? It's the new Eth.
I think that. I mean, I think that it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, BNB is more. They're more interested in pumping their own coin than like Vitalik is interested in pumping ETH.
Right. Better marketing.
Yeah, better marketing, exactly. And kind of all of the more pump and dump type projects will build on Binance because they'll know that they'll be able to have liquidity instantly.
Right. That makes sense. For me personally, I'm not touching BNB. I'm not touching it. It seems like, okay, maybe it'll keep pumping, but like it's about to pass Litecoin.
Yeah, like it should. It should be top 3.
Really, not from a technical standpoint though. Maybe from like a pump and like their marketing and stuff, but like it should not have more market cap than Litecoin.
Okay, so
my opinion.
This is what I think. So with BNB, with the Binance DEX, the way that it works is if you want to trade, say, Bitcoin on it,
right?
What you do is you send Bitcoin to Binance, and then they print off some Bitcoin tokens on the BNB DEX.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it trustless though?
What was that?
Is it trustless?
No, you have to trust Binance to hold your Bitcoin, so it's custodial.
But can you prove that they're only printing 1-to-1 Bitcoin? Is it the trustless that way that you can verify, or can it just be fractional reserve lending?
You should be able to verify, I would imagine, because there's going to be like a block explorer and all the history. Mm-hmm. And to my knowledge, there's no like advanced crypto type stuff. Like you'd be able to follow the Bitcoin transaction into Binance's wallet on the Bitcoin blockchain, and then you should be able to follow the creation of the Bitcoin token on the BNB DEX.
Right. Right. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I ain't touching BNB though. It's already pumped too much compared to other coins and it's like too much risk for me. Like, you know what I mean?
All the new like the ICOs are all going to be happening on BNB, and as soon as they ICO, then they'll be tradable right on Binance DEX.
Mm-hmm.
And then because it's a fork of Cosmos, the way that it's going to work is, so Cosmos is a school project. You should check it out. I think it's cosmos.network. They the way that the way that Binance DEX is going to work is that every single order that you make, every single time you put up a buy order, a sell order, that is a transaction on the network. And then, so that's like the first kind of interesting thing. The second interesting thing is that because it's a fork of Cosmos, the way that Cosmos works is there's kind of, you can have like side chains basically to the main chain. The main chain is like the Binance DEX.
Mm-hmm.
And then these side chains can kind of do whatever they want, but then they automatically can plug and play with other side chains. So what I think is going to happen is Binance is going to do like some ICO project is going to happen on Binance, and then you're going to have to buy it into that ICO with BNB. And then after the ICO happens, those tokens get paid out, and then they're native to the Binance DEX. And then you can use them in all the apps that ICO makes on their side chain.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I think he's good for the space. What is his name? I don't remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
The Binance CEO.
Funds are Seifu.
Yeah, and he's in meme immortality now.
Yeah.
The funds are Safu me.
Yeah.
You ever watch the original Bizanacci Funds are Safu one?
Yep, that was good.
Dude, those are my favorite. Those Bizanacci ones, those crack me up.
There hasn't been a new one in a while.
Yeah, we need like a new like beginning of the bull run where like there's hope for Wojak.
Yeah, totally. Told himself too many times or something.
What's that?
He's just like, he's so pink. There's nothing else that they can really do.
Yeah, they need like, especially with like the recent price action, they need like, is there hope for Wojak? Like the sun rising? Is it like hope?
while he's working at McDonald's.
What's that?
While he's working at McDonald's.
Yeah, or in his Amazon cage.
Yeah, Amazon cage. That's about it.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I'm heaviest right now in Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash. Those are my top two. That's like 80% of my holdings is Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash. I actually don't have. I only have some Bitcoin that I put away for my wife and my child, and that's like my super epic cold storage. I actually decided that the Bitcoin that I put away, my daughter will get it when she turns 18. Maybe she'll be able to buy her own island from then on. From by the time she turns 18, we'll see.
That's pretty sweet.
But Litecoin for the halvening hype, and I do think that like it's starting to get a lot of network effects, and it's going to be seen as like another. I think there's room for at least two stores of value. This is like an esoteric thing, but there's a reason why there was always gold and silver more than their properties. It's like human beings need two types of money, one more for transactions, and like the whole Litecoin marketing thing. It's like, and it's the fact that it's like Bitcoin people usually accept Litecoin. They're not as hostile to it as Bitcoin Cash for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Bitcoin like some of the Maximus obviously like Tyneway and stuff, like they're super anti-Litecoin. But for whatever reason, like most of like the Bitcoin community is like, oh, yeah, fees are too high, like use Litecoin. I don't know. They're down with like and Monero. Those are like the two that Bitcoin people are usually down with for some reason. Like arbitrarily.
Yeah, because like that's what the narrative was. The narrative was, Litecoin is going to be the test net, and
Right.
We're gonna deploy SegWit first on Litecoin, and then once we prove that it works, then we'll get it on Bitcoin.
To be the biggest thing with Litecoin is it dominates script mining, which is like the biggest GPU mining, and it dominates it. And so it has like all the network mining effects, and like even like the more scalable coins like Bitcoin Cash, like they doesn't have script mining, and like that's a little bit more like of an economic standpoint with like mining and like proof of work is like there's always going to be excess GPUs, and if the excess GPUs on the planet need to be put to work doing something to make them economically viable, and right now and for the foreseeable future they're going to choose Litecoin, then there'll always be a place for Litecoin. You know what I mean?
True that. Yeah.
Right.
As long as there's not a different GPU mineable algorithm or GPU mineable coin
that starts to take over, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then Bitcoin Cash, also just because I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and I think that I think Bitcoin Cash is going big places. I kind of think Bitcoin Cash is going to be the biggest cryptocurrency in the world in a few years. It sounds crazy. I think it might be the biggest coin someday.
I hope so. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then I have some. I like a lot of the financial utility tokens. I think there's a lot of merit. I think that's going to be a big wave. Okay, to me as a less techie person and a little bit more like just from like a more business perspective, I think there's a lot of blockchain saturation now, and there's a lot of room. Like a lot of the stuff that you can do on all the blockchains now, and so it's like even if there's like a new amazing blockchain project, is like if they reduce costs massively or something like that, it's like the cost of like doing something on a new fancy blockchain compared to like Bitcoin Cash, where it's like still like a fraction of a penny. It's become negligible with the saturation, I think, of platforms. And I think people don't realize you can also build a lot on the proof of work, like more money type coins, like Bitcoin. Litecoin has smart contracts, Bitcoin Cash now, like Digibyte, which I'm also a big fan of. Like you can do smart contracts, like they're building digi assets, which is basically like they're like I think they're similar to Ethereum tokens, basically. Like if you have a gold, like the ERC20 token, like you can do assets on Digibyte now, kind of like what Ravencoin is doing. And so there's just so many, like from an outside perspective, there's just so many blockchains now. It's like, how many are we really going to use, and are they really like better than what we already have? It seems like it's like becoming negligible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It is becoming really saturated, and the problem is just that for developers, it's easier to make a quick buck making your own coin.
Yeah.
Than collaborating with the coins that currently exist.
Right. And so I think that this next market cycle, I'm a big fan of like utility coins that can move to a blockchain, right? So like, and they're more like business coins that are concerned with like having utility as far as like banking or like lending or something, and they can actually reduce costs in the real business world. And they're basically like running on top of the blockchain. Like one I'm a big fan of is like Populous, right? So invoice factoring is a huge industry for the banking industry that people don't know about. And it's basically like short-term loans for businesses that need to meet payroll, or they need to like stock their warehouse for a month. They don't have money to do it. So they borrow money from the bank short term. And the banks charge like 20-30%. It's a huge cash cow for the banks. But using blockchain, you can drastically reduce the costs. And like the way like a lot of like the business world works, it's like, yeah, these blockchains are really nice and fancy, but like if you can save so much money already on using the blockchain, if it costs you 5 cents for a transaction or a penny, it doesn't matter for a lot of the use cases because you're already cutting costs by so much compared to the traditional system. You know what I mean? And so I like a lot of the like financial tokens that are like run by like business people that are like more like a CEO, and they're like have like a vision for like getting business to their utility token and like the marketing, and they have like a business plan to disrupt a certain industry. So like other coin like I own, which is it's like my fourth or fifth biggest holding. Like Populus I like as a utility token, and then also Veritasium, just because I've been following. Like you should look into them. Have you ever watched Reggie Middleton's videos?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I don't fully understand the whole thing that Veritasium is doing, but I kind of got. Oh, go on.
Well, they are much more centralized. So important to make the distinction. Like I buy Veritasium because I'm betting on Reggie Middleton. You know what I mean? I buy Litecoin because it's like Litecoin's definitely way safer. Like it's a decentralized network. But I think that there's it's like betting like if you buy Tesla stock, you're basically betting on Elon Musk.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And so like Veritasium is very centralized. If Richie Middleton got hit by a bus, like it's probably game over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's no good. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. But I think there's going to be like a new kind of crop of like utility token CEOs, kind of like what the Binance guy is doing, that are able to like focus more on the business of like building the marketing and getting projects to come to them and making deals with countries and governments and like municipalities and things like that, and then bringing business to their utility token.
Yeah, I would say keep an eye on with the founder of Spank Chain.
Is that the porn one?
What was that?
Is that the porn one?
Yep, that's the porn one.
Yeah,
it's for like live cams. Spank Chain is, but
right.
I'll definitely say keep an eye on Amin, who's the founder. He really gets Ethereum, and he's made a bunch of cool projects already, and I think that he's going to just continue to make cool projects. So I recommend to keep an eye on him if you're into like actual business use cases.
Right.
You might be a person that comes up with something.
Right. What are the? We'll try to wrap it up here, but I was wondering, what are the things on Bitcoin Cash that are coming out that you're like most excited about? Because I'm pretty excited for it's pretty cool they're getting Schnorr signatures first, and it's pretty like Avalanche Consensus is pretty cool. Zero conf transactions. That's a big thing.
Yeah. So I think with Bitcoin Cash, I would say that this upcoming protocol upgrade, we won't call it a hard fork because hard fork implies that there's like contention and that both things will survive.
What are you calling it instead?
Protocol upgrade.
Yeah. I think that helps the community a lot too.
Yeah.
It's like it's not contentious. It's not a hard fork.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just an upgrade. So
right.
Because like there's not going to be like a fork coin that you can sell. It's just no one is going to support the old rules. Everyone is upgrading together. So So in this upgrade that's coming up, they are going to add Schnorr signatures. And cool. Basically what that means is it's a different way to create valid transactions. And eventually you can do some really cool advanced cryptography with them to make transactions more scalable and more private. That they used a lot of the work that Blockstream did. Actually, Blockstream did a lot of work in figuring out how to make Schnorr signatures work. So
Blockstream gets a lot of hate, but Blockstream's not all bad, you guys.
Yeah, they employ some smart people, even though I think that some of the people that worked for them could have been friendlier.
Right.
They weren't very nice, and they sometimes still aren't very nice. Yeah, they have done a lot for Bitcoin. But yeah, so and then the other thing with Bitcoin Cash in the protocol upgrade, the second part of it is they're gonna make it so that you can spend SegWit coins, because
right.
what happened was there were already SegWit coins that existed before the fork happened. And then because when there's a fork, the two blockchains share the history up until the moment that it forks. So there's some locked coins on Bitcoin Cash that are SegWit, and so they're going to add in an ability to make it so that you can spend those coins.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's cool that they're getting Schnorr first. That's a lot of. Oh, one thing I was going to say is what I heard. Is this true that I don't know if it's this upgrade or they're going to do like a second part of the Schnorr upgrade, but Schnorr is going to fix transaction malleability. Is that true?
I'm trying to. I think that so with transaction malleability, the problem is that you can make multiple signatures that are different that are valid, and because it basically it'll result in the transaction ID being different, but it's the same transaction. That's kind of the problem with transaction malleability. So I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna have to get back to you because I'm not 100% sure that Schnorr alone will solve that, but it might.
Right. I don't remember, but it was something. I think Omri said it, or it was someone else said it. But it was either this one or the other next one. The next protocol upgrade after this one. Something about the way they're implementing Schnorr, either like I said in the first protocol upgrade, or like they're gonna maybe then add on like another part of Schnorr or something. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, that it's gonna fix transaction malleability, which is cool. Then Bitcoin Cash, what this means for those of you watching, is basically just means for the layperson, its most important thing is that means that it's easier to do state channels like Lightning Network on Bitcoin Cash. That's why it's important.
Yeah, totally. You're completely right. And if I recall correctly, I believe that fixing transaction malleability is part of like their October, or is it November? I think the next upgrade.
Right. Okay, cool. And yeah, Avalanche Consensus too. That's a pretty exciting thing. You know, being able to safely like do like a cup of coffee and stuff like that without waiting for it to clear on the network. I think I don't know how far away that is. I think that's more like far out Avalanche, because that's something you have to be careful with. You know, it's like it's a pretty big. It's changing the consensus, of the network. That's a big deal. So I imagine there has to be a lot of testing. I don't know when. Do you know when do they have a rough estimate when they're going to implement Avalanche?
One of the developers from OpenBazaar actually implemented it.
Oh, already?
Yeah, and it's running in so it's BCHD. It's not Bitcoin ABC. It's a different implementation of Bitcoin Cash called BCHD that has it, and it's working, but there's still a lot of things that need to get figured out before it's like really, really ready.
Right.
Just because, like exactly what you said, it kind of really changes the fundamental way that Bitcoin Cash works, and you need to be sure that you're not going to incentivize people to do the wrong things, like break the entire blockchain.
Right. But it's cool that they're really pushing like Avalanche Consensus like the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
That's like the frontier of like cryptography. That's pretty cool that they're trying to, that's what I like about Bitcoin Cash, is they're just trying to push the envelope as fast as they can while doing it safely, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to be, and they're smarter than the whole SV. Like SV basically reorgs themselves. Like
Yeah.
they tweet about how they just made a 1 GB size block, but
Yeah.
then that block never makes it into the blockchain because it gets reorged.
Yeah, you want to walk the middle path. You know what I mean? You want to push innovation as much as you can, but while still being safe. That's what you want to do, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, another coin I own quite a bit of is Digibyte. I'm a big fan. Digibyte to me is the most like, as far as like mineable UTXO coins, I think that like Digibyte and Bitcoin Cash, with like, especially out of ones with like a reasonable, at least like a somewhat reasonable market cap, are the ones like pushing things like as fast as they can. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Bitcoin Cash actually, I think I told you this. They've actually implemented a lot of code from Digibyte.
Mm.
Like, remember when Bitcoin Cash first forked, and they had like they had the gyrations in the hash rate, those massive gyrations that were like reaching like all of a sudden it would take like 2 hours for a Bitcoin Cash transaction because of like the hash rate fluctuation, like 90%. Like what Digibyte does, it's called DigiShield, and they actually, I think Digibyte reached out to the Bitcoin Cash team with their code. And it's called DigiShield. What it does is, instead of waiting 2 weeks, I think it's every transaction, the difficulty readjusts.
Every block.
Or every block. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, not every transaction, every block. Yeah, which is, it actually makes the network safer. Like if Bitcoin implemented DigiShield, it actually make Bitcoin better, like safer. Like same thing with Litecoin. So DigiShield's a pretty cool thing, and Digibyte's done a lot of other things that other coins have copy and pasted from. Like they put. So I'm a fan of. Those are my two favorite like innovating coins, or like Bitcoin Cash and Digibyte. I like their teams.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's also like Zcash is also doing some cool things too.
Right. Is that mineable?
Yeah, it's mineable.
What is it? Is it like what algorithm do they use?
What is their mining algorithm? I don't even know. It's GPU mineable. Oh, well, there's ASICs for it actually.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I don't even know what their mining algorithm is, to be honest.
Are they doing cool stuff with like ZK snarks?
Yeah, they're doing some cool like zero knowledge stuff, and they're also doing. So the reason why I bring it up is actually because a company that's that's comparable to Lightning Labs. Mm-hmm. So Lightning Labs, they work on the Lightning Network. Company that's comparable to Lightning Labs just raised a bunch of money to build a very similar payment channel network on top of Zcash that is more privacy focused than Lightning.
Interesting.
So yeah, the Zcash is going to have its own different type of layer 2 Lightning network type thing coming up probably within a year or so. I would imagine it would probably start being a thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, privacy coin. I think privacy coins definitely have a role, and there probably will be a top like privacy coin. Probably, in my opinion, probably Monero, just because it has the most network effects. And there's a reason why the exchanges will list Zcash, but they won't list Monero.
Yeah, it's because Monero is different. So
yeah, it's completely, it's just dark. It's like gone dark. You know what I mean? You can't know anything.
Yeah. Like Zcash is a fork of Bitcoin. So if you already run Bitcoin, then it's really easy to run Zcash. But Monero is built from the ground up, and it's a completely different thing. It's not a fork. Well, it's technically a fork like Bytecoin or something like that, but it's like basically
right. Yeah, right. It didn't. Well, they might have forked the code base at one point. Did that what Zcash did? Did they fork the code base of Bitcoin, or did they actually like hard fork the history?
Oh, they just forked the code base, not the history.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
I think most coins probably forked the Bitcoin coin base.
A lot did.
Yeah. Yeah, like I know Litecoin did, obviously. I think Digibyte probably did. Most of the UTXO coins probably forked. I think Monero didn't, though. Interesting, from the ground up. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why their community is like very vibrant and
Yeah, I like Monero a lot. It's my favorite privacy coin, and I think that Monero has an important use case. You know what I mean? So I don't see Monero going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah, we talk about blockchain saturation. To me, Monero is going to be the ones that probably sticks around. I think it's a relatively safe bet. You know?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
I like Monero. I think it's a cool project.
yeah. I think Monero's really cool. They push innovation a lot too, like with bulletproofs and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they definitely. All right. Well, we should probably wrap it up here relatively quickly. How about last? You want to show us your project, your Handshake?
Oh yeah, sure. So I've been putting in a lot of effort into this project called Handshake, and you can see I'm wearing a shirt, Handshake shirt.
Yeah, there you go, repping it.
Yeah. So Handshake is a new blockchain, and we were just talking about how there's blockchain saturation. Except the difference is with Handshake is that there's not really any competition in what it's doing,
Mm-hmm.
except for Namecoin, but like Namecoin's like not actively innovating right now.
Right.
So Handshake is kind of like it's like a DNS blockchain, and basically what that means is on the blockchain, you can buy and sell domain names, and the domain names exist as UTXOs, so they're coins. And
Interesting.
basically, there's an on-chain auction system that you can buy the domain names. So you can only buy like top-level domain names, so the equivalent of .com, .org, .net. But so all the current top-level domains that exist, they're reserved for the real holder in the real world. So .com can be claimed by the person that has the private key that secures .com, right? So all those domains are like held for those people. And basically for like other people, if you want to buy a top level domain, then you can go through an auction on chain, and basically once you buy that top level domain, then you own it and nobody else can take it from you, and there's not a central organization controlling whether or not you can create that domain name, and there's nobody that can take your domain names away, and the market will like determine a fair price for what those domain names are. And what I think is really interesting about it is, like the domain name system, it's kind of ancient. Like there hasn't been a lot of innovation happening in it. People kind of forgot about it. People build it like a different layer now. They just like the domain name system just works behind the scenes, and like apps don't actively really do interesting things with it. But there are a lot of cool things that you can do with it, but people just kind of forgot that it's a thing. So we're hoping that people are going to be able to use Handshake to basically buy their own top level domains, and then they'll be able to basically manage their own identities just using the domain name system, because it was kind of set up to do that. Like the original people designing the domain name system and the internet, they didn't really expect for the internet to turn out the way that it is, where it's just mega corps that hold all of your information, and to like a lot of people, the internet is Facebook and Instagram. It's not this like free open space for information that anyone can add to and, you know, change and update. So yeah, we're hoping that you know, it's a this DNS blockchain. We're hoping that it'll be useful and that you know, people will want to build apps, because if you're building a DApp, you know, somebody can take away your domain name and cut off access to your DApp.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people, they scam people too with fake names and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're hoping that mainnet will happen, you know, soon. Classic.
So it's its own blockchain?
Yeah, it's a fork of Bitcoin.
Interesting. What is the rationale of not just doing like a ERC20 token or something?
Just because all of the data needs to be saved in the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to store all that data, all the domain name system information, so that's just basically just like mapping, you know, the name like .com to some DNS information that'll like point you to, you know, the computers that'll be able to help you figure out, you know, how to download the website. Yeah, so if we put all that information into Ethereum or any other chain that's not specifically made for this use case, then it would just be too much data, and it would
Interesting.
blockchain.
Right.
So there's multiple innovations with Handshake, and in particular, I say one of the bigger innovations is just like the way that the data is saved. It's saved in this like highly efficient way that basically every single time that you go to a website, before you go to that website, you can get a proof that the information that you're getting is correct. So like, there's no real proof when you go to, you know, google.com, your computer doesn't get a proof that you're getting the right information. So somebody can man in the middle and change that if they wanted to. And then you would go to a fake google.com.
Right, right.
So with Handshake, it makes it impossible to do that, because every single time you ask the Handshake blockchain, like, you know, what is the IP address of this domain name? Or like, how do I download this website? It's like the same question. Then you also get like proof that that data is the same and it hasn't changed and it is correct.
So no, this is just like you're kind of like a pet project, or that you building it with other people, or?
Oh, so it's a project that like Purse.io and a few other organizations are all collaborating on together.
Oh, cool.
So it's a decentralized project, and yeah, there's like a GitHub, and we're actively working on it and trying to get everything in place to launch for mainnet hopefully sometime this year.
Oh, cool. Right. So mainnet hopefully sometime this year. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So
that's exciting.
Another thing that's cool about it is because like it's kind of hard when you start a new blockchain. How do you get people to use it? Because there's too many. So all the money that Handshake raised, they're like, Handshake is donating all that money back to the community through tokens. So Handshake basically, when Handshake creates tokens, what we did was we scoured the internet for all sorts of public keys that developers put up on the internet, and basically we are airdropping something like 500 to 600 coins to each person, and it's basically to get coins evenly dispersed, make it more decentralized from the start, and just get more people with like skin in the game, and more people will hopefully be interested in the project and be willing to like build on it or collaborate.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's cool that Purse is giving back. Like, it's cool that Purse is like funding research into new projects. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's why you should buy things on Purse.
Yeah, you guys, if you're watching this video, Purse.io. Maybe I'll put Mark's. Do you have a Purse link that like they can a referral thing?
Oh, I don't have a referral link.
Don't have a referral link.
No, I don't. You should use yours.
All right, I'll use mine.
Because yeah, it's this is your stream, and I work on Purse, so like it's better if you do it.
Yeah. Check out Purse. The only problem with Purse is taxes.
That's true.
I must warn the viewers. Technically, UX tax code is Bitcoin is taxed as a commodity. So technically, if you buy something on Purse, you have to calculate the capital gains of when you bought it and how much you sold the Bitcoin for to buy the Purse item. That's only true in America, but that is the current tax law.
Yeah, that is kind of a pain. We wish that we had a solution for that. We've been thinking about it, but yeah.
I do think that in the future, cryptocurrencies will be taxed as money, and it'll be less of an issue when you buy things. Because right now, if you bought a lot of like, if you just bought like cups of coffee with your Bitcoin, like technically it would be an accounting nightmare, like trying to figure out capital gains and all that. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hard enough just trying to track random trades between exchanges.
Yeah, right. And then trying to track everything that you bought in your day-to-day life and then how much your capital gains was. But it is what it is.
Just
what's that?
Just hodl. It's way simpler.
Hodling is simple. Yeah, I mean that's what I mostly do. Is just buy coins that you believe in, and don't buy too many coins because you can't follow them all. Is my advice. I don't invest more than I would never buy more than like, especially a significant amount of money in more than like 10 coins, just because like you can't track them all and like even like I own like we were talking about Theta or Theta, however you say it.
Yeah.
Like that's one of like they swapped like their net from like mainnet and like I only like knew that they were gonna do the mainnet swap from Ethereum to their net like a couple weeks before it happened, and like if you're not paying attention, then like all of a sudden your coins can change like what net they're, especially with like the less market cap coins. You know what I mean? So you have to just hodl a couple coins that you follow and you believe in, and you should probably buy Bitcoin because it's probably the safest.
Yeah. If you want to buy crypto, just buy Bitcoin and just learn. Because learning will pay off way more than like it's a more guaranteed return than like gambling, because you can gamble at the shitcoin casino, or you could learn more about the space and then make well-informed decisions over the next decade. Because
right. And this is your friendly reminder that most people lose money trading. Like 90% of people lose money trading. And it kind of becomes a thing where like people want to be traders because there's marketing towards traders, but people market you to become traders because exchanges get transaction fees every time you buy or sell. But the vast majority of people, they're better off just holding. I've seen a lot of people get wrecked trying to trade.
Yep.
And dude, and crypto goes up, I mean, there's enough volatility in crypto anyway that if you hold it for the long term, you're gonna be fine. But it's a topic for another day.
For sure, especially where we are in the market cycle.
Right. All right. Well, it was nice chatting with you, Mark. Thank you for coming on and sharing your vast knowledge with us.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm learning new stuff all the time. And thanks for having me on your show, Luke. It's pretty cool just chatting.
Yeah. So check out purse.io. You can see my referral link, and also check out Handshake. That's another cool project.
Yeah, maybe maybe when we're closer to mainnet, maybe I'll come back and I'll talk about it some more.
Yeah. When we're closer to mainnet, we'll do another a specific like Handshake interview.
Sweet.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, bye guys.
Cool. All right, later.